Now, 6:45. What's going on here? Music? We're coming up at 7 to go through today's back pages is Mike Porky Parry. Morning, Mr. Parry.
Good morning, guys. And wherever you look, you can't get away from the man of the moment, can you? That's Mohamed Salah. But Liverpool fans will not enjoy reading some of the headlines this morning. Speculation that Salah could be off to Real Madrid in a £200 million deal. Just think of that and think what's coming up. Think of Champions League finals.
Well, I'm thinking I wish I was an agent.
Well, absolutely, but it could involve Liverpool and Real Madrid, and yet the player at the centre of it could be playing for the other side next season. Fascinating.
See, already you're sticking a knife in the Liverpool, the Reds' hearts.
Not at all, Al. I admire Liverpool for what they've done and what they've always done in Europe. I want English teams to win on the continent. Talking about Liverpool, by the way, another, speculative piece about what's going to happen in Rome next week. They've got to step up security because of the tragedy that's happened in Liverpool this week. So we look at that as well. And Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, don't know about you, Cass, but I'm not particularly, distraught about the fact that he's got this injury.
That's harsh.
No, I don't want players to have injuries.
The guy's career could be over.
No. I do not want players to have injuries. What I'm saying is he really a key member of the England squad?
He's
he's a good player, a great lad, and I wish every player a successful career.
Talking about kicking someone on the down.
No. I'm not sure that's going to badly affect the England squad.
Clogger Parry.
I tell you, Mike, before you go there.
Yes.
Have you asked Gareth Southgate that question?
Yes.
He'd tell you, he'd say, I'm gutted, I'm devastated, because he was a big part of my plans.
Yes.
Have you spoke to Gareth? So it is a big loss to England.
No, I haven't spoken to Gareth at all. What I'm saying is, as an England fan looking from the outside in, I'm saying to myself, I'm glad it wasn't one or two other players who've been ruled out.
No. As an England fan, you're saying tough.
No, I'm not. What I'm saying is that, of course, it's a blow. It's a blow to the lad. It's a blow as a professional footballer who's lost the rest of his season. But thankfully and critically...
He'd walk in the Everton side.
Well, listen, I'm not talking about the Everton side. I'm talking about the England side, Al. And Arsene Wenger, of course, the situation there gets more confusing by the day. Arsenal got a big week, but it still seems a bit unclear as to what led to him announcing his departure from Arsenal. We can get stuck into that with a bit of in-depth reporting and a story that we're going to focus on, which I find fascinating, the possibility of Chris Coleman going to Ipswich, Al, the team that you've graced so manfully for so many years. And that, to me, is a double-ended story. Not so much Chris going to Ipswich, but the fact that he's leaving Sunderland, possibly, because he's never met the owner of Sunderland since he went there over 6 months ago. And the possibility that Gareth Bale might be on the move. Could he be going to Bayern Munich?
Nice one, Mr. Parry, coming up at 7 o'clock. We are crossing to Spain next. 4 minutes after 7 o'clock. Welcome back to the Alan Brazil Sports Breakfast with Ford and Tony Cascarino. Liverpool's Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain has been ruled out for this summer's World Cup by a knee injury sustained in Tuesday's win over Roma. For more than this, and he couldn't care less. And all the big stories make today's papers. We're joined live in the studio by Evertonian talkSPORT's Mike Porky Parry. So, what are you happy about?
Good morning, fellas, and good to see you all, okay? No, I'm not unhappy about anything. What I'm saying is that it's a terrible tragedy for Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, it's a tragedy for Liverpool Football Club and for England, but I'm only saying that would Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain have started England games in the World Cup automatically? I mean, what I'm saying is basically, thank God it's not Harry Kane, okay?
Liverpool could win the Champions League. Are you saying he wouldn't start for England?
Well, I don't know. I mean, what do you think? Would he necessarily be a starter for England? I'm not sure he would. I mean, I'm not Gareth Southgate, but he's not an automatic choice, is he? He's not a Dele Alli. He's not a Harry Kane. And in my view, it could have been a lot worse in the sort of players we could have lost for the World Cup in Russia. Although, obviously, I have sympathy with the boy.
You sat on Evertonian bias.
No.
Scandalous.
Not at all. Not at all.
Well, the thing is, Mike, the Ox has always shown, even in his Arsenal days, that his potential to be a match winner.
Yes.
And what he's done at Anfield this season has been he's gradually improved. Now, the manager believes in him. So I think England could have found a way to get the Ox into the England team.
All right, but only could. You know what I mean? This is the point I'm making, Tony.
If they make Mike. If they make the Champions League final, which they're in a great position to do, and then the Ox has another really good game, how would you not see him being in the England team?
Well, that's not my choice, because I'm not the coach of the national side, I'm not the coach of the Liverpool side.
But you've got to find a way.
Well, look, all I'm trying to say here is that we shouldn't, get this out of proportion. He's a good player, he's a good potential England player, but he's not the England player that's going to win us the World Cup. Now, you look at our friend John Cross here, in the Daily Mirror this morning, on page 58, he says, hard knocks, agony for Alex as he's ruled out of his third major tournament and the Champions League final. That in itself is a terrible blow to a young player. For 14, 16 and 18, the years of, is ruled out the competitions. And, of course, if Liverpool get to the Champions League final, as we all believe they will, he's going to miss that as well.
Well, you're putting the boot in, and you're going to put the boot in on Liverpool now, but there's a security problem, aren't you?
No, I'm not putting the boot on anybody else. That is not my job. That is not my job to put the boot in. I cannot do that.
Rome steps up security.
Rome steps up security. They'll come to you in a second. But the main story that Liverpool should be concerned about this morning is on the back of the Daily Mail. Dominic King, one of the most informed men in that part of the world. He says, hands off Mo. Reds tell Real, who they could possibly play, of course, in the Champions League final, you won't get Mo Salah even for 200 million quid. Well, I'm sorry to have to tell everybody in football that is garbage, because every player these days has his price, Tony, don't they?
Well, I can't believe at 7 minutes past 7 you're this enthusiastic.
What do you mean?
Well, you're just on fire.
No. What I'm trying to tell you is...
He's not on fire. He's not been in bed.
What I tried to bring...
He was going on about Kim Kardashian in the sun as well earlier. Where do you see that picture?
What I tried to bring to this pay-per-view, Tony, is I don't read what's in the lines. I read between the lines, okay?
Yeah.
And reading between the lines and telling you what the thinking is behind the headlines is what I'm here for, okay?
2 and 2 make 6 with,
You're a strange man.
No, I'm not a strange man, Al.
Okay, look, we know everybody's got a price.
Yep.
But if there was one player you looked at and thought, the way he conducts himself, Mo Salah, I'm not just talking about on the field.
I think it's terrific.
And off the field, what he does, I'm not sure that he's totally dominated by this feeling of got to live. I think it's a player that's playing brilliantly well because he loves where he's playing and who he's playing for.
I agree.
And the manager that he's playing for.
And if Liverpool become the European champions again for the 6th time, why would you want to leave anyway? Why would you want to leave the European champions? Only because of the money factor. And of course, Al, as you know better than most, agents have such a significant part in players' movements these days.
What do you mean? I know more. I've never had an agent.
No, you haven't, Al, but you're on the inside. You know about these things, okay? You know people in this profession. It's called football, okay? So
back on your second story.
So they say here, Liverpool will make Mohamed Salah the key man in their new era and robustly turn away any renewed interest from Real Madrid. That's what they want to do. Now then, getting to the Roma situation, you're absolutely right, okay?
And I will be there.
You'll be there, Al. You're going there next week.
And I'm looking forward to it, but I'm not a blue nose who wants to talk about Liverpool fans could cause trouble.
No, who wants to talk about that?
You do.
You're trying to second guess me. You're trying to put words in my mouth. I will not have words put in my mouth by you, Mr. Brazil, okay? What I'm going to do is stick to the headlines. This is the back of the Times. The Times is known as the Thunderer. It's one of the world's great newspapers, and it says, Rome to step up security after assaults. That's from Paul Joyce. It says, no alcohol around the stadium. So not much point you going, is there?
I'm glad you're not going then.
No alcohol.
What are you taking, Mike? What are you on?
Tony.
Magnesium.
You have to pipe down a little bit. We have a text and email saying that clown doesn't need a mic. Just tell me to stick his head out the window.
No
alcohol. Lower the volume.
Around stadium and extra searches, okay? Now, it says here from Paul Joyce, another very qualified man up in the north of England, a significant security operation will surround Liverpool supporters in Rome next week as the Italian authorities seek to prevent a repeat of the scenes that left one fan critically injured after the unprovoked attack outside Anfield on Tuesday night. I mean, it is going to be a huge problem, isn't it, in terms of...
Have you been to Rome? Have you been to
Yes, I went to the one where Messi scored his headed goal and they won 2-0 against Man United, wasn't it? Was that Barcelona Man United? I went to that. I fell down a cliff, actually, to get into the stadium.
I'm talking a Roma game. Have you been there? Because I've been to Roma a couple of times.
No, I've been to Roma Stadium, but I haven't been to a Roma game.
You've got to be careful. There's a couple of places you must avoid because it can be...
It's a very odd-looking stadium, and if you go around the back, it goes up like the side of a cliff, doesn't it?
Olympic Stadium, isn't it? Olympic Stadium.
Yeah, it's an Olympic Stadium, and it's got a running track as well, so it's not easy to watch the game, really, from the seats and all that kind of stuff.
It can get feisty. It really can.
Oh, yeah, it can get very feisty indeed. But, I mean, that's something that, Liverpool have to cope with. That's the price of success, I'm afraid, in European competition these days.
Gareth Bale. What about Gareth Bale?
Sorry, Gareth Bale's a very interesting story because for the first time we are reading that he says nobody can predict the future, okay? What he says is, he says in the Mirror today, he says you can never rule out anything in football. That is the first time he has in any way conceded that his future does not lie at Real Madrid. All the speculation has always been on Gareth Bale all the time. He's going to go to Manchester United if he left Real Madrid. Now, the word is, it could be
Bayern?
It could be Bayern Munich. Yeah.
Well, if you rewind slightly, Mike, because...
Yes.
Look, when
you're
a world...
no,
don't keep looking at the clock. I'll tell you when it's
when you're a world record fee, like he was to come into Madrid, he obviously has had huge success there as well. Let's not forget that. But he's had the last 18 months of many injuries. He's found himself gone down the pecking order. he's still a valid asset to the club, as in they can negotiate losing Gareth Bale and bring in somebody else. His days are definitely numbered. He will not survive this summer.
No. He's not fancied at all by the present management, and I mean that bigger than just the coach. I mean, the club don't seem to want him to stay.
Juve, the game in Madrid, you come off at half-time. When you get brought off at half-time, then you find yourself on the bench, not being involved.
Yes.
You're a sellable asset now. He's got to move on.
Oh, absolutely. And I think he will. I think once he starts admitting you don't know what the future is for football, you know you're on your way out. And talking about on the way out, of course, very, very mixed sort of interpretations of the Arsene Wenger situation this morning, because clearly Arsene Wenger is stunned at the fact that he's going to be leaving Arsenal. It clearly wasn't. It's now obviously absolutely obvious it wasn't his decision. And to me, he's like a man who's just been smashed over the head with a frying pan and he's a bit concussed and in a daze, wandering around thinking, what's going on?
You know what you do?
What?
Get on to your mate, Uncle Bill, because you want Sam out, put Arsene Wenger in at Everton.
No, that would be a dozy thing to do, Al, if you don't mind me saying, because Arsene Wenger has such a track record at Arsenal the last 22 years. How can you transfer that?
So you're not denying then you want Sam out?
I'm not accepting anything you say by putting words in my mouth, Al. That's not what I'm here for. You know, Sam Allardyce has done a fine job for Everton. We asked him to save us from relegation. He has done that.
Fibber.
Excuse me, he's done that.
Fibber.
He's done that.
You and your blue mates want him out.
Although I have to say, Tony, it's interesting, isn't it, that the major shareholder at Everton now is a former major shareholder at Arsenal, and therefore, already when I was up there on Tuesday for the Everton-Newcastle game, there's whispers all round the ground that, well, is there any link between Mr. Mashiri, you know what I mean, who's now the major shareholder at Everton, and Arsene Wenger. Although we're looking for a guy, aren't we, from PSG.
I thought you were going to mention Mr. Usmanov there.
No, not mentioning Mr. Usmanov.
Are you sure?
It's Mike.
Who's not your major backer, your secret backer?
Well, Mr. Usmanov has backed Everton. We all know that, and that's no secret. He's put a lot of money into investment in our training ground.
What I think's been pretty clear.
Yes.
I feel Arsene Wenger's handled the press conferences brilliantly. He's been as honest. He's one thing you can always guarantee with Arsene Wenger. If you've been at his press conference, he'll answer every question.
Yes.
And with great honesty.
Yes. And dignity.
Yeah, absolutely. Arsene Wenger's press conference is as good as anybody.
Yeah.
Because he'll always give you a brutal, truthful answer to what he sees.
Yes.
And I think he's come to terms with leaving Arsenal. I think it's a massive blow.
Listen, we're going to talk at length about Mr. Wenger. Couple of reaction. To Mr. Parry. Mark says Mike needs a good left hook. Chris Mitchell tweeted, stop shouting, Parry. And Mark added, bloody hell, Mike Parry, take a breath, we're talking Arsenal. And Chris Coleman, Nick 714.
Well,
the timing was not really my decision. And for the rest, I've spoken about it already. I don't know what I will do. Will I take a little rest? I will continue to work, that's for sure. But my pride has always been to give my best to where I'm employed until the last day of my contract, and at the moment I'm just focused on that.
7:18, the Alan Brazil Sports Breakfast Show. Tony Cascarino alongside me and Mike Loud Parry. Yeah, I love it. What are the papers saying about Arsene Wenger? Loudly.
Yeah, well, I think the biggest roundup here is Neil Ashton, our old pal, right in the back of the Sun, and he says, Farsenal. Arsenal's bungled handling of Arsene Wenger's exit became a farce as they changed the story 3 times in one day. And he goes on to say, at 12:43, Arsene Wenger says, the timing of my departure is not down to me, but by 8 o'clock that night, Arsenal and I reached an agreement about me leaving the club. So, and there's a reference in this which I think shows a little bit of the sadness that Arsene Wenger is taking, and he says, let's see how I survive without having a gun to my head. And he's making out that if you're addicted to playing Russian roulette, I can't think of anything less I'd rather be addicted to, because it doesn't sound like it's a long-term plan. If you're addicted to playing Russian roulette and you took your gun away from you, then your life is over. And I'm just thinking to myself, the first day that Arsene Wenger gets up in his home, his magnificent, beautiful home with acres and acres of grounds.
How do you know?
Because I heard...
How do you know?
Because you heard him talking about his gardener, didn't you?
He lives in London. He would not have acres and acres of
Oh,
ground.
really? Why did you make a reference to the fact that he doesn't know how many gardeners he's got who look after his garden? You've got to have quite a few gardeners if you've got a few acres.
You've just made that
No, I have not made that up, Al. You've got quite a spread yourself somewhere
and
in the country.
I don't have a gardener.
You don't have a gardener. No, well, that's to keep you fit, and obviously it's working.
Do you know what? He might be fine.
Yeah.
I'm sure
I don't think he will.
he's alluded to, Mike, that he wants to stay in football.
Yeah.
Now, there is a sadness, a huge blow to him, you know, that he's leaving a club that he's adored and obviously managed to the best of his ability for 20 plus years.
Yeah.
But he will move on. I think he's too smart of a man to reflect
but after 22 years, Tony, the wrench is just almost unbearable. Anywhere he goes now, he will compare his working conditions and his working relationships with that at Arsenal.
Mike, he might also have in him a bit of an excitement of a new challenge.
Yeah, the French national job.
French national job.
Or back in Paris Saint-Germain.
Maybe even Munich.
French national job, 10 games a year, that's not going to keep a man like Arsene Wenger happy.
He is not addicted to his job like you're addicted to radio and your papers. He's got another life. He doesn't just have one life. He's got another life.
Oh, is that right? Well, it's a good job I'm addicted to these papers. I found you some stories which not many people are talking about, which we're going to talk about in this show. Chelsea hope to cut costs of Conte's exit, written by Matt Law in the Telegraph, right? Can you believe this? Many of the top targets for Chelsea, such as Mauricio Pochettino, Maurizio Sarri, Max Allegri and Leonardo Jardim, would be too expensive to prize away from their clubs. However, Chelsea face a potential bill of £9 million to sack Conte if he does not walk straight into another job. But what's more, they're saying that if they take on Luis Enrique, even though Luis Enrique hasn't got a current club or a contract, the starting price will be £15 million
Yesterday's news. I spoke about it yesterday.
15 million.
Check the date on there. Check the date on that paper. That was yesterday's news.
No, I'm not checking it at all.
Mate, why are you surprised? Management has changed enormously. If you're in the bottom to mid-table of the Premier League, you'll be on between 3 and 5 million. Yeah?
Yes, I agree.
And the top end, it was 7 and 10.
Yes.
Now it's leapfrogged to 15 quite quickly.
I think
Pep Guardiola will surpass that by a country mile.
Yeah, and I think Jose has an exact contract as well. But in your day, Tony, footballers were paid more than their managers, weren't they? And that was until quite recently. Yeah. Quite recently, footballers were paid more than managers.
What about, did I hear you mention Ipswich earlier?
Yeah, well, this is a great story, Al. This is a great story. Chris Coleman could be going to Ipswich. It is speculated in the Daily Mirror this morning. Now, I find this an astonishing story because...
Why?
Well, I think Chris Coleman's a great manager, and I think he's a great guy. And I love his expressive face. He uses his face to talk. You know, his eyes are blazing, his lips are rubbery, and he uses them to emphasise and enunciate his words.
He uses his mouth to talk.
But your mouth can change your lips as well, Tony. You know what I mean? And he always grabs my attention because of his passion for the game. Now, what I simply don't understand is it says that Chris Coleman is said to be given an escape route from Sunderland by Championship club Ipswich. His future is in doubt at the stadium light after the club were relegated to League One on Saturday. But this is the most amazing thing. Coleman admits he's never spoken to owner Ellis Short and has no idea what the club's financial plan is to be able to come back next season. This is a badly run club.
Well, if you go back, it was quite clear that Roy Keane and Ellis Short never spoke.
Right.
Obviously, Noel Quinn, who was working...
And there's an Ipswich connection there with Roy Keane. And
yes, of course there is. Yeah, of course there is.
And Noel Quinn had, difficulties with Ellis Short as well. That's why he left the post as the chairman of the football club.
Yes.
Ellis Short deals very little with whoever his manager is.
Yes.
This isn't just Chris Coleman.
Yeah.
This has been a common theme all the way, Mike.
Okay, so it's not a well-run club then, is it? I mean,
no,
from the outside looking in, when there's been many stories written over this season that Ellis Short's given up anyway and wants to actually give the club away.
I said ages ago, Mike, I was told from a very good source, be careful what you say, but he's got major problems. He's a very rich man, but he's got major financial problems at the moment, so he's probably can't help Sunderland at the moment.
Well, Al, all very rich men are dealing with money every day, and it comes in, it goes out, and all that kind of stuff. That's what they do. Now then...
But will they get any money at Ipswich? Move on to
let's tell you about
racing. What about your racing story?
Well, now, racing, this is great, OK? What's happened here is, and it's a really good piece, it's written in the Telegraph, who obviously...
Oh, this is ridiculous. Sorry.
What? What's your problem?
I've got to read this out. More reaction to Porky. Mike Parry's like a wasp. All noise and serves no purpose. Mike Parry is stressing me out. Pete said, please get this tube off and tell me to stop saying yes, yes, yes between every word. Sorry, you were saying.
I think some of these listeners are being a bit harsh this morning. Don't you understand my distinctive style?
But the Liverpool and Arsenal fans, you've slaughtered them today. That's why.
Well, and by the way, can I just point out to our millions of listeners, please, that Al only reads out the negative ones that you send in about me. There are thousands of complimentary ones. Thank you very much indeed. I feel very welcome being in this studio. Now, this is a great story, Al. It will interest you enormously because, of course, you are immersed in the racing world.
I can only just... it's got to be brief because Mr. Potts is listening and waiting.
Oh, is he? Which Potts is that?
Mr. Henk Potts.
Oh, Henk Potts. I think I'm Percy Potts. No, OK, that's great. Well, Henk will come on in a minute when I've finished educating the audience, OK? So this great headline in the Telegraph. Yards riding for a fall over stable staff shortage. To attract staff, you've got to increase wages, you've got to improve conditions, it cripples smaller trainers, it's a vicious circle. What he's basically saying is the world is changing and young people have a different view on life. And not many kids now who want to be stable lads or lasses are prepared to get up at 4:30 in the morning in -3 temperatures and jump on the back of a horse and gallop off across
well, then
Newmarket.
Mickey Quinn will tell you, when you're a small yard as well, you just can't get the proper good staff.
Yeah.
Because they command good money, and when you've only got 10, 12, 15 horses, you can't pay the top dollar.
No, that's right.
So it is a problem,
It says 1,000 more work riders are needed. There is an actual crisis in the
what
industry.
riders,
That's
Mike,
sad
is
for
very
racing,
important.
though, Mike. That's a big blow for racing. If you can't get the young lads at the bottom of the chain to come in and do the hours...
Mike, do you know what they mean by what riders?
Yes.
What riders is someone who's good on that when you do speed work.
Right.
When you're working out... Oh, he's well. This horse.
So when
is
you
well
take the horse up through the gears, so to speak. Yeah.
And somebody can sit there tight and come back and give the information. Like a Formula 1 driver said, the engine's brilliant, but the gears. Somebody give information to the trainer about the horse's well-being in speed work.
Right.
There's not many of them.
No.
Stay there, because Henk Potts joins us now. Mr. Potts, good morning, Henk. Henk?
Hey, morning, chap.
Oh, I thought he pushed off then for a minute.
Well, I was just leaving time for Mr. Parry to leave the studio. You know, must be so unusual for you, Mike, to be doing something in daylight hours when normal people are up and around.
That's absolutely
not
true,
working
mate.
the graveyard shift, having millions of listeners. It must come as an element of a shock for you.
It's overwhelming, Henk, and I feel very humbled to be here today in the company of Mr. Cascarino and Al. I don't feel humbled to be in your company, but it's good to be with a couple of stars here.
Believe me, so enjoy it while you can.
Please don't talk about Twitter while Mike's here.
No, it's a sore subject for some people. Twitter doing very well, reporting
That's a bit odd.
Profitable quarter, topping Wall Street estimates for revenue and monthly active users. Daily active users grew 10%. Monthly active users rose 3% to 336 million. International sales have been growing fast, up 53%. Twitter, of course, known for its short messages, particularly from Mr. Parry, but has also been diversifying into live shows and broadcasting events, using video content, try and keep people on the service for longer. Having to spend more to monitor the service. Costs are rising. They're increasing the amount of people they're hiring. The shares have bounced back, actually, up 27% over the course of the past year.
And, Henk, what about Gucci, top-end brand? What are their figures?
Doing really nice, actually. Booming sales from Gucci helped the French luxury goods group Kering surge to record highs in terms of its shares yesterday. Recovery in spending in Chinese shoppers over the course of the past 18 months has fueled revenue rises for many of the top luxury players. Gucci revenue growth has accelerated in the first quarter. Asian demand stay was excellent, but also had a good bounce back from the United States as well. Gucci sales rising 49% year on year, providing evidence the 3-year revamp is paying dividends. They've been overhauling its product range, redesigning its stores, helping it attract younger shoppers, and that's certainly been paying off.
Henk, any more news on possible interest rate hike?
We get the European Central Bank today, latest decision. Don't expect too much from them. Actually seen a softer patch in the Eurozone in the first quarter. A great debate, of course, whether the Bank of England will pull the trigger on the May hike. The expectation from us is that they will do, although data in the UK has been a little bit softer. Inflation has come down a little bit over the course of the past couple of months. But I still think we are talking about a hike coming through. One hike this year. We expect 2 hikes in the first half of 2019. So got to get used to higher interest rates sooner or later in the UK.
Nice one, Henk. Thank you.
Cheers,
Henk Potts there from Barclays. Don't worry, Porky Parry is official, has left the building. You can now turn your radios and the talkSPORT app back up. So adjust your volume right now, 728.